Hey everybody, thanks for joining me in the garden on Outside with Jeff. Let's do a October 10th garden tour and see what's going on. Start with the mint. It's doing fantastic as always. Starting to go into flower on some of it. No big deal. Rosemary is doing absolutely fantastic. We have some volunteer tomatoes. As you can see, I've already cleaned up along the perimeter garden. I have some snow peas planted here. This is intended to I planted this to get a seed crop out of it, so we'll see how that goes. Got a couple eggplant plants that I'd planted earlier in the year. See how those end up. As you can see, they're flowering. Got little bitty starts of eggplants on them, but probably too late in the year to actually get anything. But it is what it is. Next year I'm going to plant them earlier, see what happens. Never grown eggplant before, just thought I'd give it a try. Perimeter garden's all prepped, mowed over, grass is starting to grow back in. This section here next year I'm going to plant my snow peas from about here to there. After I harvest snow peas and remove them, I'm going to follow them up with green beans. I did that in another part of my perimeter garden earlier this year, and it worked out really good. Following green beans with snow peas, the timing on everything just worked out fantastic. This is where I had the sunflowers. I just cut them all down 2 days ago. They had all dried up, and a lot of the heads have been eaten by the birds. So I kept a couple that still had seeds on them and just hung them here on the fence so the birds, little finches and stuff, come over and eat the seeds. But I've got about in this little bush here and this little tree here, I'll come out here and there'll be 20 or 30 little finch type birds just chilling, and they'll come down here and eat the seeds. But this is all mowed over, the debris. Planning on just scattering some turnip seed to kind of cover crop on that. Here's the blackberry bushes. They're looking fantastic. They'll be ready for next year, make it through the winter, and they should provide quite a bit of blackberries for next year, so that's exciting. Come down here, you can see I've got some extra garden soil, put that to use next year, some projects. And the compost pile divided up. This is the finished side. I've added a little bit of produce scraps and stuff because those will break down a lot quicker. And this is garden debris, mainly a few tomato plants I pulled out and sweet potato vines. So, but yeah, so that'll be really nice for next year. And this is ready now practically. I could dig around and get plenty, but I don't have anywhere to put it right now. So let's go take a look at the rest of the garden. All right, this is that newer raised bed that I'd added. We've got a few rows of spinach coming up. These are some cabbage plants I direct sowed. This is lacinato kale, looking really good. This is about 6 foot or so of red Russian. This is a dwarf curly leaf kale, bok choy, and some beets. And then I didn't plant anything on this end here. Here we have the garlic starting to sprout up. I did a garlic planting video. I went ahead and added to it. So planted this here in the first video, and then a couple weeks later I planted this, and then just this past couple days ago I planted this little section here. Got carrots. I made a video when I planted these carrots. They're doing really good. I just watered everything, so that's why it's knocked down from the water. This section here, I tried to plant kale and beets in here in July, and at the very beginning of July, and it was just too hot and dry. And as you can see, I got really spotty growth, and I did not use my germination frames. That's another thing. I wanted to see how it would do without using the frames. As you can see, didn't go over very well. Here we got some carrots also. These are Scarlet Nantes and Imperator, same as these. These were actually planted before these. This goes to show you weather really plays a big factor. These were planted in the first part of July, and these were planted the very end of July. I'm never going to try to plant carrots at the beginning of July again, I don't think. They just didn't work out very well for me. But yeah, plant them in the end of July, you're going to do fine. Beginning of July, not so much. So this is where my green beans were. I just ripped them out the other day, added them to the compost pile. Here we have some kohlrabi, the Vienna kohlrabi. Only a couple of them are starting to form the little kohlrabis on there. So we'll see how those end up. First time growing them. I don't really care for them, but I just want to see how it went. Beets are looking really nice in there. Look in there, getting some nice beet production. Cylindria beets here. These are collards and kale. Swiss chard. This Swiss chard, dinosaur kale, red Russian, and Swiss chard. This was all planted at the end of March. So this has been growing all year long, just doing fantastic. These carrots are doing really nice. These carrots were planted the very end of June, looking really good. Be harvesting. I pick a few every week or so for my kids, but the majority of these will be harvested starting in, I'd say November. Peppers doing good still. I just went through and picked them clean pretty well a couple days ago. All the sizable peppers that were on there, at least, they were doing really nice. I think I picked about, I don't know, 20 peppers off of them. So that was nice. I've picked over 120 peppers, I'd say, this year. Oh, missed one. There we go. Corno del Toro. Missed a couple of them. They're kind of hard to see sometimes. This was where the sweet potato were at that I just dug up. Picked a few green tomatoes today. There's a few nice ones still. We're having fried green tomato BLTs tonight for dinner. It's going to be delicious. These tomatoes are still hanging on. They look pretty rough, but they're still hanging on. They're still putting on some red tomatoes. So I'm going to leave them. Okra. Okra is huge, tall plants. I just came through and picked this a couple days ago. Look at that pod right there. Fresh okra. So good. These have produced and produced and produced every time I pick, which, excuse me, I usually try to pick about every 4 or 5 days, every 4 days or so. Now I'll have some waste or some that are too big to eat. I just throw those in the compost, and then everything that's, I'd say 2 to 4 inches goes in the house, and I make okra fries with them. So those turned out really nice. A couple beets that I was allowing to go to seed. I wanted to see how big they would get. Look at that beet. That thing's gigantic. Not edible at all, but going to seed. Kind of interesting project. That's a 2-year-old beet. Green beans. Green beans, I picked them the other day. This is where the green beans came from for my fermented green beans. These look like they're about done. They are loaded, but they're too far gone, so I'm just gonna let them go to seed. Well, that's pretty well it for the garden tour. As you can see, still have a few things producing. Okra, peppers, kale, Swiss chard, carrots are looking good, a few tomatoes. And then, you know, we had some things wind down and in. Sweet potatoes have been harvested. Sunflowers are done. Yeah, so looking pretty good. I've already started planning out my garden plan for next year. I'm gonna try to plant this entire bed here is gonna be sweet potatoes and white potatoes. Looking forward to that. I'm gonna try to grow about 400 sweet onions, a bunch of tomatoes, a bunch of peppers, all kinds of stuff. Thinking about doing a pay what you can, take what you need, pay what you can kind of stand in the front yard. We'll see how that goes. And I might plant, I don't know, my wife loves garlic, and I want to have enough for a good seed crop next year. I might go ahead and plant another section of this, like this size, in garlic. Not 100% sure, but we'll see. I know this year I planted my sweet potatoes after I harvest my garlic, so I know wherever I plant my garlic, I'll have enough time to come back and plant sweet potatoes. So I might plant a little bit more garlic somewhere else. We'll just have to see. I'll have to look and see how much more I have hanging in the basement and how much I want to dedicate to seed stock and how much I want to make sure that we have to eat. So yeah, from my garden to yours, have a great evening.